cultural perspectives. I don't know what you mean by cultural perspective, but I just want anything that is refreshing.
That's right.
No.
Historical perspective also.
Okay, historical perspective, okay. Right, we talk about intricacies. Let's look at so, you want to do the record?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll start from the content. I'll first of all introduce myself.
Oh, yes.
Okay?
Get closer.
My name is Patrick Oloko. Patrick Oloko. Oloko is spelled O-L-O-K-O. I am from Ogoja in Cross River State. Ogoja is about 150 kilometers from Ogidi, which is the hometown of Chinua Achebe. We do not speak the same language. However, our cultures are similar because Mr. Achebe was Igbo, and there is almost no difference between the Ogoja people of Cross River State and the Ogidi people of Anambra State. Now, if you want to look at the relationship between the Ogoja people and the Ogidi people, you could call it some sort of colonization. The Ogidi people of Igbo land are very influential, and they are itinerant traders. So many of them came and settled at Ogoja. As a result, we became dependent on them for so many things. They own virtually all the businesses, the laundry businesses, the pharmacy, school teachers, and almost everything. So there is a very huge interconnection between us, even though we do not speak the same language. Therefore, when I read Things Fall Apart, I felt quite at home. And all the paths through the forests, the behavior of these people, the New Yam festival that you see celebrated there, the worship of the gods, the playground stories, and all of that were quite familiar to me because of this huge interconnection between the Igbo people and the Ogoja people of Cross River State. To me, it was as if Things Fall Apart was set in my hometown. Now, let me go to the context of Things Fall Apart. Things Fall Apart, as you must have read in some of the analysis of the novel, inaugurated what is called modern African literature. It was the first novel of literary significance which was published in the continent. And when I say published in the continent, I mean published in the English language. Of course, there were other anti-colonial novels such as Ferdinand Oyono's The Old Man and the Maiden and Houseboy, but these were published in French. And so when Things Fall Apart was published in 1958, there was a revolution. And as a result of the influence of Things Fall Apart, very many Africans started writing novels. However, what gave rise to Things Fall Apart? As Mr. Achebe himself said, he had two primary motivations. The first is that as a graduate of English of the University of Ibadan, he read colonial novels and other literature which showed the Africans as savages, primitive, uncivilized, and then showed the European protagonists of those novels as cultured, civilized, and all others. The main reason for his reading of those literature was simply because the teachers were Europeans. But the other reason, of course, that there was no published novel or no published literature of significance. In other words, African literature was virtually non-existent. So you needed a new generation of people to start writing. And Chinua Achebe was one of them. Now, the second motivation was very specific. Chinua Achebe said he read Joyce Carey's Mr. Johnson. Joyce Carey was a colonial officer resident in Kano. Apart from being the district officer, he was also a great novelist and wrote so many novels about his experiences in Africa, in Nigeria particularly. Now, you must understand that as a white colonial officer working in Nigeria, where English was not spoken at the time, Mr. Carey would definitely not understand most of his employees who were Nigerians. However, he operated through an interpreter, and then he started gathering a large idea about how the Africans were from these interpreters. He formed his opinion of Africans or Nigerians from the interpreter, who also could not even understand English. And so he created a character in Mr. Johnson who is a happy-go-lucky man, very similar to the slaves in American plantations of the South, who were shown to be caricatures and all of that. As a result, it turned out that the readers of these novels were quite satisfied. And so, while Mr. Carey would smile to the bank as a result of his sales figure, educated Africans came to a full understanding of what role such novels expected, or such novels threw on them to play in the emerging circumstance. In the same manner, Mr. Achebe had also read Rider Haggard and all of that. And so when he graduated from the University of Ibadan, he had a clear idea of what he was supposed to do as a writer. And so he started to write. And of course, his first novel was a bang. Very successful, and has inaugurated modern African literature. Now, to summarize what I mean by the context, let me say that two things motivated Mr. Achebe to start writing. One, the idea of the primitivity of Africans. And two, the immediate context of his reading of Joyce Carey's Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson is the title of the novel. If you Google Mr. Johnson, you will see what I mean. Joyce Carey is spelled Joyce and Cary. Good. That's the context. All right. Now let me try to provide synopsis of Things Fall Apart, which I'm sure you can do on your own. But in order not to take things for granted, let me just give you a just very brief synopsis. In the novel, we are introduced to Okonkwo, who is said to be a very great wrestler. In fact, the very first sentence or first two sentences of the novel set the tone for it. And the tone is, of course, that it is a historical novel. I try to quote it. Okonkwo was well known throughout the 9 villages of Umuofia and even beyond. His fame rested on solid personal achievement. As a young man of 18, he had brought honor to his village by throwing Amalinze the cat in a fierce wrestling competition, which the old men of the town agreed was the fiercest since the founder of their town engaged the spirit of the wild for 7 days and 7 nights, unquote. Good. Now, with that tone, you become aware that you are set for a very great historical novel. Okonkwo is a very significant person in his Umuofia village, but his father was not so significant, and as a result had left an image which he fought continually to defend throughout the novel. When the novel opens, we are told that Okonkwo's father was not part of the elders of the clan and had died a very shameful death. He was a lazy man. Okonkwo fought to show that he is not like his father. He does this by borrowing CDMs and then establish his image as a great man too. Combined with that of his strength, he becomes part of the elders of the decision-making council. Sometime as the novel progresses, an elder in the town has just died, and as the custom is, people start to shoot guns as a result of this death to show that a great man has died. Okonkwo shoots his Dane gun into the air, the metal explodes and pierces the heart of a young child, and the child dies. That introduces us to a very significant part of that novel. When it is discovered that it was Okonkwo's